We're so back, man. It's so good to be back with Bleach. Like, this episode, just pure flames. Like, I think everybody can agree. When we saw this scene as well, I think we all just sat back and was like, that poor man. Like, this poor man, like, thought he was about to have the time of his life, and then he turns out to, let's just say, become split on the matter. But, oh my goodness, it's legitimately, what a great episode. I really am just happy to finally have Bleach back. It has been a long wait since the last season. We have just been waiting, and here we are. The wait has been worth it, because, man, when this episode came out, I sat down, I watched it, I was just... I was just rocking in my chair here. I was drinking my cup of coffee, rocking in my chair, and I was just like, man, I miss this series. I love it, and it's so good. It's so good to talk about this series, and as you can see, I'm in a very good mood. Okay, so let's talk about, the opening first. So the opening song for Bleach, the new opening song we got, it's gonna take a while for me to really kind of get into it, but I have to say, visually speaking, I would say that this is more in line with the original Bleach openings from the past. Like, when I think about just, like, the design, seeing all of our different Soul Reapers, and just all of our cast, literally the entire cast, enemy, friend, all that, Johan Bach here, by the way, like, can we take a moment to talk about how this man is in hell? It's so out of place, man. You're not gonna tell me this isn't out of place. Like, just, this man is literally committing war crimes, so to speak, in this episode. And we have this man in a helicopter. And this is obviously, like, the strongest Quincy. Like, the father of Quincy, so to speak. So, just having this man in a helicopter offering his hand over to Uru and just like, hey, like, grab my hand, join me for my mob boss activities. It's funny, and I do want to talk about that, actually. So, I got a little bit off topic from my original topic of the opening, but I like how this opening does kind of, like, detail the events that's going on throughout the story right now, while keeping it, like, very vague and using just slice-of-life theme and elements. I really do appreciate that. It's a very subtle way to get the fans that have, let's say, read the manga and know what to expect to, like, notice these little details, but at the same time, those that are just walking in and just, listen to this for the first time, to be like, oh, this is really nice. This is a cool little unique opening song, like the domino effect and all of that. I really like this. So, yeah, one thing I do want to point out as well, and it really kind of showcases one of the big things that's really always been one of the most powerful aspects of Bleach, I think, and I think this opening song really demonstrates that, is that Tite Kubo, the author of Bleach, obviously, he's really good with character design. He's really good with just designing characters. Because you're not going to tell me, like, when you're watching this episode, and this opening is a really good example of that, a lot of his characters, they're just so uniquely designed with their outfits and everything. He's really good. He's really good at it. It's probably his strongest suit as a mangaka is just his overall character design. And, I mean, there's a lot of characters throughout this episode that were introduced to, like, on the Quincy side, and you're not going to tell me, like, this isn't a group of best girls that you see on screen here. Like, there's a lot of great characters that are introduced, and this entire scene with Bambi is just... I'm not going to go too deep. You know what, I'm going to talk about this, actually, okay? So... this scene in particular is legitimately funny, because she offers this guy, like, hey, come to my room, I'm in a bad mood. And obviously, if you're this, guy, this pretty boy guy, and you're offered by basically a very strong individual, you're gonna be like, oh, wow, I'm getting a chance. I'm getting a lucky break, so to speak. And obviously, we know what happened to the man. Let's just say he was split. And... it's really interesting, because this entire conversation implies that she does this often. It's very, very often to where she will invite a hot guy into her room, and then some, I guess unexplained things happen, and then the man ends up, obviously dead. And pretty much, we don't really know exactly how far this scene went. It wasn't elaborated on or anything like that, but there's obviously educated guesses you can make from the way this scene was done, with her having to, like, zip up and all that. It obviously implies potentially that maybe there was some, let's say, adult action going on between the two characters. Now, obviously, we could also say that that never happened, happened, and that she just only seduced him, and then once he tried to approach her, you know, she got rid of him and he died. So there's really no full explanation. Unless Tite Kubo has went on record to really say what happened within this scene, it's up to really just your imagination on what you really think that Bambi is doing to these individuals that she invites to her room. But yeah, a very interesting way to introduce the character, so to speak. I think this is definitely gonna get a lot of attention for people that were watching Bleach today. Now, besides that, we also need to talk about the whole, just like, the splitting of the Steinritters, and how, like, you know, they're a little bit upset that Ashita is now apparently the successor for Juha Bach. And I think that was a really big scene for this episode. Basically, the whole, like, scene where Bach was, you know, in the throne chamber, and, you know, Uru was like, why'd you select me and all that. It's a very interesting scene, and I love the, once again, the very show don't tell aspect of just what Bleach does here. I really like how he's looking into the cup of blood like a ritual, so to speak, and, you know, there's a lot you gather from this. You have, you know, the way Ashita looks into the cup. You could assume that he's obviously determined. He's very determined, and he wants to actually get to the true end. Like, he wants to achieve his own goals, his motivation, so to speak. And there's a brief glimpse when he's talking about how, like, you know, Soul Reapers and Quincy's will never get along, but it shows, obviously, you know, Ashita and Ichigo. And I think that's a very big moment to show that there is a inkling of doubt within Ashita. At least he's seen that, you know, he's not necessarily completely against Soul Reapers, but at the same time, he's still pushing on with Juha Bach and, you know, working with him. So there's a lot going on here with this scene. A lot of show don't tell, so to speak, and I just like that. I really do like what the animators are kind of doing with the very simplistic designs as well, with, like, the backgrounds. Like, you know how it's, like, solid black, and the only thing on frame here is literally just the throne room, or just, you know, the throne chair for Juha Bach, while, you know, Ashita is in front of him. It's an interesting dynamic, and I think that, you know, just the way a lot of scenes were handled, like, you know, this whole scene with the graveyard kind of showcasing all the deaths of the Quincy's, and that, you know, Ashita's like the only one left, or he thought he was the only one left, and, you know, he sees his grave of the mother, and then, you know, darkness is around him, basically showcasing isolation and all that. It's very easy to kind of understand this scene, but I think that it's really powerful by just, like, how they're really using the imagery, and I've really loved that about Bleach since its return. It's not just for this episode, but it's like for, you know, the part one, you know, the first, you know, episodes we got of, you know, Bleach since its return. You know, there's a lot of scenes like this where there's no dialogue. It's showcasing the character's motivations just through a brief animation sequence. I like that. It's like what happened with Yamamoto. Anyways, besides that, we also got a lot of setup going on where characters are kind of getting in motion to prep, getting to show that a lot of our characters over the course of the series are kind of teaming up and going to be participating in this upcoming fight. And there was even a very powerful moment as well with Ichigo's human friends within, you know, this episode. And I kind of want to take a few moments to talk about this, because I think that this is a scene that really will fly over a lot of people's heads because of what it truly does represent. For one, it showcases the severity of the situation, that for even, like, you know, the captain to come down into the regular human world to talk with them, and it's like, hey, you know, Ichigo potentially might not be able to come back. Even if it's a 1 in 10,000 chance, there is a very likely possibility that he's not going to be able to come back because he might have some world-altering ability that will affect the world of the living. We can't allow that. It will kill the whole entire reality. This kind of shows the transparency that Soul Society is having for Ichigo's friends, and it carries on all the stuff that happened with the Aizen arc, kind of cluing them in and letting them know the actual truth. It's a very powerful moment and very subtle as well to kind of showcase a lot about Ichigo's character. Because let's be honest, if the worst case scenario does happen and Ichigo does have some world-altering ability to where, like, he's not able to come back to the world of the living, he probably would be fine with that, because he would do what's best for those around him. Because the big core element of Ichigo's character is that he wants to protect those that he loves and cares about. And as the journey went further and further on within Bleach, he's gained more and more people he cares about, not just in the world of the living, but in, you know, Soul Society, but also Hekomundo, you know, the Hollow World. He's just continuously picked up more people that he wants to protect. And if his very presence would destroy reality, he definitely would not go there. He would sacrifice his own happiness and even his human life to be able to do so. It's a very interesting moment, and it just, once again, I like just how everything is kind of being set up here, showcasing we're getting into the end game of Bleach, but also just, you know, it goes along with Ichigo to what he would do to protect everyone around him, or what he actually cherishes. And so yeah, this is a legitimately good episode. I love this so much, and I really also love this final sequence, how, you know, Joha Bach initiates his invasion on, you know, Soul Society. It's a really crazy moment, honestly, and he says that he will actually conquer the world in 9 days. So is that possible? Will he do so? We will have to see. But I want to leave this video at that. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I always really do love your guys' feedback in the comments below. How do you feel about Bleach's return? Be honest in the comments below. But with that, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.